Hey everyone, so I did it. I pulled the trigger on the Secret Lair Karlach Rage. So you know what that means? We're doing a Commander Dive. That's right. I'm Adam, and this is Commander Tax. So who is Karlach, Fury of Avernus? So this is 4 in a red pip, Tiefling Barbarian. Whenever you attack, if it's the first combat of this turn, you untap attacking creatures that gain first strike, then you're getting an extra combat, and you choose a background. What is the background that I chose? Well, I chose Dragon Cultist. That's right, this is a mono red deck. This is going to create us 4/4 tokens anytime one of our creatures does 5 or more damage, which is not going to be hard to do. So we're going to get a 4/4 dragon every turn. We're going to get multiple combats every turn. We're going to burn our opponents down. That's right. This is a salty, mean, I'm going to smash your face and win games kind of deck. And that's what we're going to do. I can't wait to show you guys. Let's get into it. So the first category today is anthems. So the first anthem we got is Anger. So this has got haste. It's a 2/2 for 4. Yeah, not well statted. However, if you control a mountain and this is in your graveyard, all your creatures get haste. So as long as your graveyard's not removed, creatures have haste. Next up, we have Coronation of Chaos. This is just a sorcery. You're going to take 3 creatures and tell them they can't block, and then you goad them. So this is going to guarantee that we can hit with a creature. And when we have multiple combats and we're able to pump our creatures up, we're going to do massive amounts of damage. We may just be able to kill our opponents with this card. Next up, we have Rising of the Day. This is going to give Karlach a +1, and again, it's just another haste enabler. Great card. And then we have Purphoros, Bronze Blooded. It's 4 in a red, indestructible. As long as your devotion to red is less than 5, which should be no problem. We're in mono red. Other creatures have haste, which is awesome. And then 2 in a red, you could put a red creature card or an artifact card from your hand on the battlefield. So basically, you get to play something for free, and then you get to sacrifice it at the next end step. But if we're playing this deck right, we're going to get multiple combats, and this isn't until our end step, so this could just straight up win us the game. Every card here is designed to win you games, guys. Win you games. Let's freaking go. All right, next up, we have Crucible of Fire. So all of our token dragons are going to have +3/+3. Since they're flying, they already have evasion. That means they're 7/7s, which is going to trigger our enchantment. So we're going to get another 4/4. And that's what that's all about. So that is the anthem category. Our next category is Burn, Baby Burn. Let's get into it. First card here is Sunspine Lynx. This is 2 and 2 red pips for an elemental cat. Players can't gain life, damage can't be prevented, so tons of utility. And then when it comes into play, it deals damage equal to the number of non-basic lands that opponent controls, so it deals damage to all opponents. And then it's really well set at 5/4. All of these elemental creatures are great. I think this is another one that's really good. I can't wait to play this one. All right, moving on, we have Keytis, Emberclaw Familiar. This is 1 and a red pip. If a commander deals damage to one opponent, it deals damage to all opponents. So one of the problems a deck like this can have is that you can take out one opponent and it leaves you open to everybody else. Well, now we attack one person with Karlach, it's going to deal damage to everybody. Not that we're only attacking with Karlach, but this does spread out some damage, which helps with that. Also, the additional combats will help with that, but just a really cool card for this deck. All right, now we have Osier, Axonal, Deepest Might. This is 2 and 2 red pips. It's a god. If a red source you control would deal an amount of non-combat damage, so this is only non-combat damage, less than Osier's power, it's going to deal damage equal to Osier's power. Then when it dies, it flips over to a land, and you can transform it if you source you control dealt 4 or more non-combat damage this turn and only as a sorcery. So just think of Sunspine Lynx. Let's say they only have one non-basic land. It's still doing 4 damage. So that's awesome. There's other cards in here that are doing non-combat damage. So as we burn people down, we can pump up Axonal and do even more damage. And really just a great card in any mono red burn deck. Next up, we have Fiery Emancipation. So this is a real burn card. If a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it triples that damage. So Karlach being a 5/4, and then if you have an extra combat and you have her pumped up, this literally will take someone out. You get this on the board and you're just going to win games. Same with the next card, City on Fire. This is one of the secret lair ones. The cool part about this one is if you have a bunch of creatures on the board, you can convoke or play this for a lot less than you can at Fiery Emancipation sometimes. And that is the burn category. Let's move on. Extra combats. Doo-doo-doo-doo. First card is Combat Celebrant. It's 2 and a red pip, and if it hasn't been exerted this turn, you may exert it. What that means is you, as it attacks, so you attack with this, and then it doesn't untap on your next untap step, and then basically you untap all other creatures, and then there's an additional combat phase. So this is extra combats on a stick. Next up, we have Savage Beating. This is 3 and 2 red pips. It's an instant. It's got the Entwine, so you can choose both of these if you pay an additional 2, but creatures get double strike, and then you get an extra combat. So not only do you get extra combat, you get double strike, which your creatures are going to be stompers. They're probably not going to be able to block. We'll get into that, and you're just going to probably win the game. I'm not going to lie. That is if you entwine that, you're probably going to win. Moving on, now we have Great Train Heist. This is a new card with the spree ability. You can pay 3, untap all creatures you control if it's your combat phase, so you have to play this on your combat phase. There's an additional combat phase. Then you can pay an additional 2. Creatures you control get +1 and gain first strike, which is a lot more valuable than you might think. And then if you have 1 more mana, which I never seem to ever have 7, so it's really tough to do this. But you could choose target opponent. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to that player, you create a tapped treasure token. So this is going to be a ramp ability. If you want to just pay 2, you could actually just use this as a ramp, which I've never done because the extra combat's just too valuable. Moving on, we got World at War. This is 3 and 2 red pips. It's a sorcery. After the first post-combat main phase, this turn, there's an additional combat phase followed by an additional main phase. At the beginning of that combat, untap all creatures that attack this turn. Okay, so this is a wordy way of saying you get an extra combat and an extra main phase. The best thing about this card is this ability at the very bottom here. It says Rebound, so it goes into exile, and then at the beginning of your next turn, you get to play it for free, and you're going to do it all over again. This is awesome. So this, because it's not only giving you an extra combat, it's doing it twice. Next up, we have Morog, Fury of Akum. This is 4 and 2 red pips, so pretty expensive card. Each creature you control gets +1/+0 for each time it has attacked this turn. So if you have 3 combats, that first combat is going to get +1, then it's going to get +2, and then it's going to get +3. So really good. As each combat resolves, your creatures are getting stronger and dealing more damage. This is awesome. And then Landfall. So like whenever you play a land under your control, if it's your main phase, there's an additional combat phase. So this says main phase, it doesn't say first or second, but your combat happens after your first main phase. So you can't play this on a land on your second main phase and get an extra combat because there is no combat step. So at the beginning of that combat, untap all creatures you control. So you're going to be able to attack twice. Yeah. Really cool card, and that, guys, is the extra combat category. There are a few other extra combat cards. These are just the ones we're going to feature. Let's move on. Now we have everything else category. This is for cards where I didn't know where to put them, so this is where they fall. First card is War Cadence. This is 2 and a red pip. It's an enchantment, and then you can pay X in a red, and basically it's a tax on blockers, so they have to be able to pay for each blocker. Really cool effect, and one that is going to guarantee that we can get our creatures through. Next up, we have Headliner Scarlet. It's 3 and a red. Same thing. You play this, and target opponent can't block. There's nothing they could pay in that situation. What's really cool about this is at the beginning of your upkeep, you get to exile a card from the top of your library face down, and you can look at it and play that card. I like that it's face down, right? So you get to look at it, but the table doesn't. So this allows you to bluff, and I don't know how much Magic you guys have played, but this could be a lot like poker. Like bluffing your opponent can be just as important as playing your cards. And so like being able to use that card to your advantage, like this makes this a lot better. This is from the Clue set. A lot of people missed on these, so check this one out. Now we've got a Lord of the Rings card. No Commander Tax video would be complete without one Lord of the Rings card. This one is There and Back Again. I've never seen this card. This is 3 and 2 red pips, and it's based on The Hobbit. If you haven't read that book, That's an awesome book, and I love that it has Smog in it. But anyways, this is a saga that says at the first stage, up to one target creature can't block for as long as you control there and back again. The ring tempts you. I don't really care about the temp part. You just make sure that you can swing in and somebody can't block. Then the second phase is search your library for a mountain card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. So this is a little bit of ramp. So two really good things already that are helping our deck. And this third one's really cool, is that you create Smog, a legendary 6/6 red dragon creature. It's got flying, haste, and when this creature dies, create 14 treasure tokens. That's nuts, right? No one's going to want to remove this. So basically, if you have Fiery Emancipation, you're doing 18 damage each turn, or you're getting 14 treasures. Just a really cool card if you can get on the board and get it to the third stage. And yeah, this is probably a pet card that I put in this deck. Anyways, moving on. Let's go. Bedlam. 2 and 2 red pips. This is just an enchantment that reads, creatures cannot block. Like, I wish I had 5 of these in my deck, and this would be awesome. This would win you the game probably every time. You're doing way more damage in mono red than anybody else. So the fact that creatures can't block, it's going to force your opponents to remove this. And if they don't, you're just going to win. Great card. Next up, we have Dolmen's Gate. This came from the Secret Lair, and it just says prevent all combat damage to be dealt to attacking creatures you control. You're attacking the most. They're going to want to shut this down. Just a great artifact for this deck and what we're trying to do. And that, guys, is everything else. Let's move on to our last category, Salt in the Wound. The first card here is Urabrask the Hidden. It's 3 and 2 red pips. Creatures you control have haste, so another haste enabler, but this also says creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. So a little stack ability, and it's a 4/4. Great card. Next up, we have Urabrask Forge. So a couple Urabrask cards right off the bat here. This is 2 and a red pip. It says at the beginning of combat on your turn, put an oil counter on Urabrask Forge, then create an X1 red Phyrexian horror creature token with trample and haste, where X is the number of oil counters on Urabrask Forge. Sacrifice that token at the beginning of the next end step. This is just a fancy way of saying that you're going to get a bigger and bigger powered horror every time there's a combat. So your first combat, it's 1 oil counter and it's a 1/1. Second combat, it's 2 oil counters, so it's a 2/1, and so on and so forth. And so, like, the more combats you get, the bigger this is going to get, and it's going to force your opponents to remove it. Eventually, if this doesn't get removed, you easily have a 10/1 Trampler. This is a great card. Now we have a really spicy card, Blood Moon. It's 2 and a red. Non-basic lands are mountains. So not mountains in addition to their other types. They are mountains. So they're not in red. They're non-basics. Yeah, this is a mean card, and I love having it in this deck because this is a mean deck. Now we have Dragon Tempest. So another dragon card. It's 1 and a red. Whenever a creature with flying enters the battlefield, so this is our 4/4 tokens, it gains haste until end of turn, and then whenever a dragon enters under your control, it deals X damage to any target, where X is the number of dragons you control. So hopefully by turn, I don't know, 5 or 6, we should have 3 or 4 dragons. And this is going to be dealing triple damage because we have City on Fire, right? So if 3 damage times 4, it's going to be 12 damage. It's going to be really spicy the later and later the game goes. Now we have Stranglehold. This came from the Secret Lair. It's 3 and a red. Your opponents can't search their libraries. Yeah. We're not searching our library, so neither are you. And then it says an opponent would start an extra turn. That player skips that turn. So screw you, blue. You're not getting any extra turns. And that, guys, is the video. I hope you like this kicked up version of Commander Dive. And this was really fun to talk about. If you guys could give me a like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.